Hello guys and girls, Greezilla here, and we're on the dev server again, because there are a few more tanks in the French tank... Sorry, can't speak human. In the French tank tech tree. Let's just double check there's not anything in the aviation tree. No, I think we're all good there. Okay, interesting enough. So, what is new? Well, they still haven't fixed the H-39's gun caliber, interestingly enough. Unless they have actually put a tiny 75mm in there, but as I say, I believe it's a long 37mm gun. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens there. So yes, we'll see what happens there. I'm just going to double check actually. But we've also got the we've also got the new tanks in there. So, what new tanks have we got? Just reading now. Just going to take a few minutes because I've just woken up. And I'm still very slow, which is pretty typical in the morning. Yeah, so I think it's a long barrel 37mm off the top of my head. Anyway, let's continue. So we have got the ARL-44. We've got the heavy tank variant. We've also got the tank destroyer variant. Now these are two different variants of the chassis. Sort of different sort of models almost. So we'll look at the heavy first of all, the ARL-44 ACL1. Wait, no, that's not the heavy, that's the tank destroyer, isn't it? Or have they just modelled it a little bit differently? Okay, it looks like the modelling for the ARL ACL1 is not quite in yet, because I believe it has an oscillating turret. But again, I might be wrong. I'm just going to check that one. No, that is right. Sorry, I was wrong. I was thinking of something else there. Oh, damn, I'm having a very good morning so far, am I? I would just restart the video and just go from afresh, but you know, I'm very lazy in that respect. So this is a French heavy tank, and it is gonna be pretty interesting. It's okay speed, but it has some pretty good armor. But it's more of a medium tank than a heavy tank. At 4.0 though, that's going to be plenty of armor. The turret is the main thing though. As you can see, the turret is very, very thick armor. Now, the big issue is the top here. And this section will be penetrated very easily. And as you see, if you penetrate with a high explosive round or a explosive fill round into this spot, you're going to take out most of the crew with pretty much ease. Now we've got the 75mm gun here, which will give some relatively good punch for the for the tank. And let's just check the modifications. So solid shot again. No, 124 millimeters at 10 meters. Well, 120, about 100 millimeters of penetration over the 500 meter mark. So that's pretty good. Yeah, it looks like an interesting tank. Let's take it out for a test drive and see how it performs. So, it's not bad on acceleration. The turret traverse is not bad at all either. Now, this was a tank that was developed just before the end of the Second World War. Only 6 of these tanks were ever completed from about 1949 onwards. And it was a bit unsatisfactory, so it didn't end up being used, really. But it is still a relatively decent idea. So at 4.0 I can see this being a pretty decent tank. Let's blow up this Panzer II here. Nice easy shot there. The tank is very manoeuvrable though. It feels quite nippy and quite good in the manoeuvring. Let's fire off at the Tiger II over there. So penetrated the Tiger II from the side without too much issue. Let's try for that turret. Even the turret from the side is pretty easy to penetrate, so that's good. So this tank will be relatively powerful for punching through armour, as you can see, and we're going to get through most things without any problem. So that's going to be good to see. The armour, as I said, is pretty terrible low down, but the turret is well armoured, so you're going to want to be hull down most of the time. It has that sort of typical French look. It's sort of got those open tracks. It almost looks like a an earlier tank design. It looks more like a early mid-war tank. Sorry, a mid-interwar tank design for those track designs. Whereas the turret does look like a more modern turret design. So it's sort of a mixture of two different eras of tank designs. Let's just head back to the hangar. And let's have a look at its tank destroyer variant. So this one has the 90mm gun, slightly different turret design as well. The hull armor is slightly thicker, so we see there's a thicker plate on there, which is good. Oddly enough, this is the tank destroyer has got more armor than the actual heavy tank, but it is a higher BR, so it's a 5.7 at the moment. Again, the turret is similar thickness. The sides are very easy to be penetrated, and the rear as well. So again, front on only with this tank. You still have this weak spot up here with this cupola, but there is slightly less sloping on this armor, so hopefully you will get less issue with this, but the cupola is still going to be a bit of an issue, I think. Inside we can see again the crew. The ammo is stored back here, so that's going to be pretty rough. You're going to have, if you've got quite a bit of ammo with you, you're probably going to get ammo racked pretty easily. Also, a centre of mass shots here as well will be ammo racked with relative ease, especially with a salvo round. So let's check the modifications. So again, solid shot, 180mm of penetration at 500, so that's very good. So you're going to be able to penetrate pretty much anything. let's take it out and just see how the gun handles. So let's just check what's the speed, and 100 meters per second on the round as well. So good, good speed on the rounds. So they will be very decent to shoot, hopefully. There we go. I like the fact that it's got the tools on the front of the tank as well. That kind of gives it a nice look. As you can see, that there's no driver's hatch really there. There's no driver or machine gunner hatch. So that's a bit. They've got the pop they got the bit to pop the head out, but that's all. I don't know if the turret is fully traversable as well. I think it should be. So this isn't a tank I would particularly like to serve in, because there's really only one way in and one way out of this tank, and that's through the top of the tank, through the commander's hatch. Okay, good. The turret is fully traversable. It's a little bit sluggish compared to the heavy tank variant. So it's not much difference, but it just feels a little bit less on the speed. The tank is a bit heavier, and you can feel that straight away driving it. It is much slower. It feels very sluggish, but once it starts getting up speed, it feels fine. It's not as manoeuvrable though. You do lose a lot more speed turning in this tank. Okay, let's blow up the Panzer II here. Oh, drat, we didn't get a kill shot. Okay. Let's fire down range at that Tiger. Nice easy shot there, the ammunition exploded. Let's try our luck with the Jag Tiger. Again, nice and easy there. So yeah, that round feels very easy to use. So this is going to be pretty devastating as a tank destroyer. It should be pretty good to be. It should be pretty good actually. I reckon this one's going to be quite an interesting little tank destroyer. Well, big tank destroyer to come out from the front as well. It's going to be a bit tough to penetrate for 5.7. Not impossible, but it will be pretty difficult. And what's that armor value? So about 160, 170. So I guess we could angle it a little bit. So if we are angled in this position, if you angle this tank, the lower plate, don't even try for it, because that's not going to get penetrated. If you sort of have this tank on the slight angling, about 170 millimeters of effective armor all the way around, other than this little section here, but that shouldn't cause any issue because it's spaced armor. As you can see, there's a secondary plate inside, so about 100 millimeters of armor there. But even, let's say, if you angle this tank just right, it should be pretty hard to penetrate with most guns at this BR. So that's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Okay, next up we will look at the AMX M4. Yes, the AMX M4, that's the next one on our list to look at. So, the AMX M4, there we go. This is classified as a medium tank. There we go. Yes, I just wanted to double check. It is in that heavy, well, the heavy tank line. So we've got the AMX M4, the AMX 50, and the AMX 50 Sabes. Probably mispronounced that terribly. So let's have a look at this one. So the 90mm cannon on the oscillating turret, autoloader again, so we've got a medium autoloader here. Pretty good armor. Not the greatest, but it's pretty sloped, so you're going to have a hard time penetrating it sometimes. Should bounce a few shots. The turret, not too bad actually on its armor. Again, very sloped armor. And there is this spaced armor here as well, so again, that should cause issue with heat rounds and things like that, just because it's got this chin protector. From the top, yeah, enough to stop some 50 caliber rounds, things like that, so that's good to see. Pretty sleek looking tank, looks relatively speedy. The gun, very good penetration ability. So this is a 6.0, so almost 180 millimeters of penetration there then at 6.0. That's going to be pretty good, and it's got some decent armor as well. Let's take it out for a test drive. So this is that sort of classic French tank design, you know, with the oscillating turret, the very sloped armor. It's yeah, it's not a bad looking tank. It's very sleek, in fact. It accelerates very well. Another thing I want to just check out. Reverse, not so good in reverse, this one. Some of the French tanks have been very good for reverse, and yes, you can make the jokes now. But this one is not very fast in reverse. Now you've got a 7-shot autoloader, and as you can see, the magazine is just below the gun barrel there, so you can see where the 7 shots go. Now this is the 90mm, so we should be able to just go straight through that Panzer II. And next round's being popped into the breech. A little bit less velocity, but still very good rate of fire. So you can get quite a few shots down range without too much issue. Of course, the biggest issue with this tank is the oscillating turret, and that's the biggest problem with these French tanks, is when you fire you get a lot of movement. This one's not too bad because it's got some better counterweights in it, but you still get quite a lot of recoil from the guns, which does cause problems. But we managed to take out all 3 tanks with our clip there, and now we're on the long reload. Of course, on the move, there's no stabilizers, of course, so the gun does wobble around quite a bit. It's not as bad as some of the other oscillating turrets I've played with, but it's still not great. Counterbalancing on this one is working much better, but you still get quite a lot of wobble. It's not impossible to get a shot off, but it is a bit harder. It's not totally unstable, but it's just got that little bit of wobble. But this doesn't have a stabilizer technically, so it's not too bad, in all honesty. And that was going at relatively high speed too. Alright, let's head back to the hangar. Okay, next up we have some redded out tanks. So we won't be able to look at these too easily. The MX-90 we've seen. So we have the Tier 9 tank, the AMX-30B2. So this is a modification on the AMX-30. And this one doesn't have any extra armor plating, it looks of it, but it still has some relatively thick armor. And we actually get the fin stabilized discarding salvo tungsten shot with 152 1,525 meters per second velocity. That's very fast. Let's just check that on the. I think this is more the what's the velocity on these rounds. 710. Okay, so yeah, so that's very fast for a general tank. Not quite up there with the Russians. Just trying to work out what some of the others have got. Yeah, so it's about the same as the Type 74s, which is very good. It fires really, really well. So that will be good to see. So that shot is really going to make a difference there. But you do lack the armor. So it's got the same armor as its predecessor, but it just has that better shot. The same gun. Pretty much everything else is the same. A little bit heavier. So it's an awesome looking tank, but it's not going to be very effective, as I say. It's still going to struggle a bit. 8.7, I think it's going to be similar to the, really the Japanese tanks, with the lack of the ceramic armor and the lack of the reactive plate armor. It's going to struggle a little bit sometimes, but that's not always needed. You still have good games with the Japanese tank. It's quite low profile. It's a relatively bigger tank, but it's not too bad. And it has got some decent frontal armor for protection with some okay sloping, so it should bounce a few shots. The trouble is this section here is probably going to be a bit of a shot. Actually, that's going to probably deflect most shots with its angling, but you will be penetrated quite often sort of in these areas. 11-second reload rate was really quite good, so it's going to be a relatively good tank to take out. It's very fast as well, which is going to help. It also has a fuel tank in the front like the Russian tanks, so that will hopefully eat up many shots and stop you getting one hit. So that will be interesting to see. So next up, let's have a look at the AMX-50. Oh, we've looked. No, we haven't. The AMX-50. So this is, I think, a variant, sort of a workup on the AMX M4. So again, very similar looking tank, although you've got the 100mm gun on this one. Frontal armor is not terrible, but it's still not great. You're still going to have quite a few shots going through here. It is angled okay, so you might get a few bounces. The turret, that's going to get penetrated quite a lot though. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a... You're going to need to use sneaky tactics with these tanks. You're not going to be able to go in front first and hope to bounce shots, because you are going to get penetrated quite a lot. Okay, and last but not least, let's look at the AMX-50 Sabius. And this is the big heavy tank. And as you can see, this one has got a big oscillating turret on it. It's also got a slight pike nose too there. I've got the autoloader in this one again, with a 120mm gun with an autoloader. So that's going to be pretty pretty devastating. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm not sure if it's the amount of load it has. Looks like the autoloader is just down from here into the bridge, so it might have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19 shots in the autoloader section. If that's the case, then this thing's going to be absolutely deadly. But we'll have to wait and see for that bit. The armor. Now this is a heavy tank classified, so the armor is very sloped on the front here. It's not super thick, but it is very angled, so you should be able to bounce quite a few shots here. But the pike nose is going to be a problem, because if somebody shoots you center here, they're going to penetrate with ease. The turret armor is not too bad. You've got the chin cover here as well, I think, so you have got a bit of spaced armor for the crew. So that should hopefully help out a little bit and eat up a few shots. But you are still going to get penetrated quite a lot. It's going to be a bit bouncy, but it's still going to have problems. If you sort of shoot for this area here, sort of near the gun barrel, you're probably going to get through most of the time. But I think the gun on this thing is going to be the big selling point. So 286mm of penetration, that's plenty. 7.7 though, so you are going to be facing things like the Leo, the STB, Centurions, and Chieftains as well. Oh yeah, you'll probably be facing quite a lot of Chieftains, because you'll probably be up tiered most of the time. The Conqueror, things like that, so you're going to face some very heavy tanks. And with the Russians, of course, at 7.7, you're going to be facing the T-54s, the IS-4s, things like that. And of course the Object 120, which is going to just rip through your armor. And of course the IS-6 you'll be facing most games. The IS-4 is going to absolutely chew through most of your armor and just destroy you. But the good thing is you should be able to go through its front plate without too much difficulty. You might be able to get away with front plate shots on the IS-4, which might help a bit, but you're still going to struggle a lot against the Russian tanks. But you're probably going to be facing the Germans and the Japanese most of all, so you will be facing the Tiger 2, the 10.5 centimeter Tigers. Say the Leopard one, 7.3, I thought that was 7.7, but oh well. Probably things like the Mouse and also the MKPZ M47. So yeah, quite a few tanks you're going to be facing in that regard that are going to be quite brutal. So yeah, that's the French tank line, and I think that's the fully padded out version with all of the tanks in it. So we've got a bit of an idea what it's going to look like now. We're still missing a lot of anti-aircraft vehicles, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But for now, I'm going to end the video, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a lovely day, and I'll see you again soon. This is Screezilla out. Bye-bye.